Hello guys, welcome back to another Unity C# tutorial. Now in the last video, we learned how to create and use a particle system. So if you haven't checked that out, make sure to check it out. And today, what we'll be learning is how to use the UI element. Now, this might sound confusing at first, but it's actually really simple. So let me show you what the UI element actually is. So like the particle system, you come here, but you don't go in effects. Like last time we went into effects and click particle system. But today we're going to be going in UI. And now in UI, you'll see a bunch of stuff over here. You'll see text, image, raw image, button, a lot of these stuff, right? Button, text mesh pro, stuff like that. Today we'll be looking more into text and button. Image is really simple, and I feel like it's really easy to figure out, so we will be skipping this. Today we're going to be looking at text and button once again. So what we're going to do is we're going to start out with text. Now as soon as you click text, it's going to have something called canvas over here, right? And inside of the canvas, it's going to have a text. So if you delete this canvas, your text won't show up. As you can see right now, there's text right here. And if I take this text outside of the canvas, the text won't show. So it has to be inside of the canvas at all times. The canvas has to be the parent of the text. So make sure your text is inside of the canvas. Now that we got that out of the way, there are two different types of UI elements. One in screen space overlay and one world space. Okay, so these stuff do two different things. Screen space overlay is, as you can see, there's this big white box, right? That is our canvas, and right now that's creating an imitation of our camera. So if we make our camera bigger, our camera smaller, or our camera in a different shape, it's gonna change how the canvas looks. And now as the canvas is imitating the camera, what you can also do is, if I move my text around, it's gonna be like, it's technically looking like I'm moving my text inside of the camera. Now the reason this is useful is, now that I brought it up here, the text will show up there. If you guys don't see, it's showing right over here. So the reason this is useful is, now even if your camera is moving around, which I have used before in one of my 3D games, where when I move my mouse, my player's head moves around, and I always wanted a crosshair in the middle, I use the UI element. And that's really useful, because now that my camera is moving around and everything, the UI stays in the middle. Like, it stays in the middle, right? Or whichever part of the screen you want it to stay on. But now, let's say you don't want that. You just want a text in mid-air. The way you can do that is by coming to the canvas. You go to the canvas, make sure it's not the text. Otherwise, you'll get really confused. You have to go to the canvas. Now, inside of the canvas, you're going to come where it says, in the canvas box right here, in render mode, you're going to change it from screen space overlay, from the space inside of your screen, to world space, like the space in the actual world. And you want to pick a camera this will render in. Now, you don't really need to do this, but it's preferred because sometimes it doesn't render. So I'll pick main camera, right? Now, what will happen is, if I play this, as you can see, I don't see the text. The reason is, now what I have to do is I have to come to my text. I have to come to my text, drag it all the way inside my camera for it to show. So if I come over here and I, let's say, squeeze the text down a bit, right? And what we want to do right now is font size, come to font size and make it like something really small, like 1. Right? Now that we made font size 1, we can minimize it. And eventually we'll get what's inside. Maybe let me make this a bit bigger, like 3. As you can see, it is really, really blurry. So there is a way to fix that, but it is kind of complicated. So let me show you. The way you can do that, as you can see, the text is really blurry and you can't even see it. The way you do that is, I want to make my, let me just create a fresh text UI element and just create a new text so it's not as blurry. What I want to do is, it's kind of gonna be a little tricky. What you have to do is scale it from rect to transform. If I scale it from here, let's say I want it to be 0.1 and 0.1, right? Now, as you can see, or you might not be able to see right now, if I come, the text has the same quality, but it's really small. So I don't know why they made it like that. I want it to be more like, if you make the text size smaller, it will still keep the resolution. But hey, you can't get everything. It's still a text anyways. Most of the time, you don't even use the world space. You use the screen space overlay and keep it at your canvas. That's why it will never get like squished or blurry, right? If you keep it in your canvas. So enough about the text. We want to see the properties inside of the text. Now look. Inside of the text, there are font size, font style, font size, and line spacing. These are the main characters you're going to be using. So the fonts, there are many different types. You can download them for Unity and you can use them. For now, we won't be messing with the fonts. We're going to be looking at font styles. We have bold, which makes the text bolder. We have italic, which makes it lean to one side. And we also have bold and italic, which makes it bold and lean to one side. Okay, now that we have got that out of the way, I've already shown you font size. You can change the font size, but it's not preferred since it makes it really blurry. You can just change it through scaling. Afterwards, we have line spacing. So if I change the line spacing to, let's say, something bigger, nothing will happen. And the reason is, we actually need 2 lines for that. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna say hello sup, right? Something like that. And then in the next line, we're gonna say, let's say my name is ... Okay, my name is, just keep it like that. And now if I change the line spacing, as you can see, first it was this close, then it got this close, this far, and it goes on and forth. And if you keep it at 0, it will be kind of weird, but we won't be talking about that anytime soon. So now, come over here to paragraph, and you'll use these stuff a lot. You can put the lines in the middle, and like in the middle of the text, and you can also put it from top to bottom into the middle. Squeeze it all the way into the middle, as you can see on the screen. And those are usually what you use. You don't usually use this or this. You mostly use the middle. And none of these other ones are really that important except for color, which you can change. I'm going to keep it red because it's more vibrant. Now, that's pretty much it for text. It's just a regular text, right? Now let's go to buttons. Buttons are going to be slightly more complicated. And once you come over here to UI element, you can either do button or button text mesh pro. We as programmers usually use text mesh pro, and you have to import essentials, right? You don't have to do the extras, examples and extras, but you have to import essentials, right? And the reason being is, as you can see already, the text is really clean. Now that's also for buttons. So if you come over here to UI and you go button, as you can see, something like that. But if I come here and add UI button text mesh pro, As you can see, it's way more vibrant, way more clean. Now we're gonna use the stuff that I just taught you, 0.1 and 0.1. And I'm just gonna make sure that, as you can see, it's not in world space. I'll keep it at world space for now. Alright? Now I'm gonna drag my button inside my screen. Now as soon as you play, you'll see some features here. As you can see, if I click it, it will get clicked, right? But as you can see, it's light at first, but as soon as I drag on it, it gets slightly more gray. And those are the default settings. You can change these really easily. And the way is, you coming under this button box, you can minimize it and unminimize it, keep it unminimized, and you're gonna see something like this, right? You can add an image. For now, we're not gonna be going into the image. We might do that later. But for now, we're gonna set the normal color, which is the color without it getting highlighted or anything. We're gonna set that to, let's say, something red, right? Now, as you can see, it's red. Now the highlighted color, you can change that to maybe something with less alpha. And as you can see, as soon as I clicked it, and as soon as it's highlighted, it stays red, but it gets darker, right? But when I click it, it gets white. So we don't really want that. We also want to change the press color to red with really low alpha, something like this. So if I come, it's got red, and if I click it, it goes all the way down. You can tweak this to whichever one you want, but I personally like it that way. And now selected color, it's preferred to stay as the normal color, since it's like once you click it, which color you want it to be, we don't really use that. And disabled color, just keep it at where it is. So for now, this is how you use a button. Now you're thinking, okay, that's good and all, but how do I actually access functions on this button? And I'm gonna go into C# for that, right? Come to C# scripts. I'm gonna make a script, right? It's gonna be, let's say, start script. It's not gonna really be start script, but I'm just giving it a name just for the matter. And now that I have my start, for a button, we usually don't use start and update. What we're gonna do is we're gonna create our own function. Public, give it a name, start function. But if that already has a name, because that's the name of our file, start, we can't give that also the name of our function, because that's not allowed. Let's give it another name. Let's say hello, right? It's called a hello function, and give it brackets and finish it, right? And now inside, we also have to give it a type, sorry, public void hello, right? It's a basic function. Now let's look what we have to do inside. We can give anything we want inside. Let's say I wanted to debug.log hello, something like that, right? Hello, and we close. So now it's gonna create a function. We're gonna save this. Now what we are gonna do is we are gonna come into our button. We're gonna drag this inside here. But it's not just that simple that it will, every time we press the button, it's not gonna in our console say hello. What we have to do is on click. On click, we're gonna add a function to do when it presses on click. Now you're starting to see what's happening. Every time it on click, you're gonna add a function. Now what we're gonna do is we're gonna drag this game object. On click, in this game object, there should be a function. And we're gonna come to that. We're gonna go to button, and no, we're gonna come to start over here. We created a function called start, code script called start, and inside we're gonna give it our function name, which is hello. It could be anything you want, but for now it's hello. So now that we've got that ready, as soon as we press, it says hello. Now remember, this is really important. If I don't have an on click over here, I minused, to get rid of it. Now if I press, nothing's happening. As you can see, there's only one hello. But now if I do it, I've already done this before, so I'm going to go slightly faster. And I press the button. As you can see, the number of hellos are getting higher. So now we learned button, and we learned text, and we learned a lot about the UI element. So that would be all for today's video. Make sure to leave a like, subscribe, and goodbye.